Well, let's go ahead and get started. Well, my name is FSR Jamin Meyer. I'm Western Washington Field Service Representative. I always like to start out making sure that everybody has our number, 253-620-8282. Call or text. I'm a big fan of pictures. All of us on behind the phones are from the field, so we appreciate it when we see pictures. Also send in pictures of the data plate. Fastest way to get a hold of us is text in a picture of the data plate. That way there's no discrepancy in the model and serial number, and it can be transferred and saved. Picture file and a brief description of what's going on. What do you need assistance with? Do you excuse me, what you need assistance with, and that text gets in, of course, what company you're with, and your name. The first time calling in, you'll get built into the system, so you won't have to repeat that next time you call in. But again, take advantage of it. We're here. We're waiting for your calls. Try to have some information ready for us when you do call in. What are the voltages? What are the pressures and whatnot? But save that number to your phone. That is Gensco Tech Services for Mitsubishi, Trane, and American Standard product. Clicker slow delay. Hold on. Symbio App Navigation. So the Symbio boards are going to be in all the package units now, and well, all the precedent systems, sorry, and the Odyssey split system. So you can configure items through the Symbio 700 board, but again, once you get familiar with the Symbio app, it's going to be a lot easier and quicker. I like to just state that we have a lot of information on genscocustomer.com. Jeremy Meal, FSR Jeremy Meal, put out some videos on field wiring of new Symbios. We recommend, if you're putting in an Odyssey system, those are all for different applications for the Symbio Odyssey split systems. I recommend going through, watching those videos, and getting prepped before you head out to the job site, and making sure that you have enough wires too. YouTube Trane commercial. I put this link on here because they have an abundance of 5-minute to 15-minute Symbio 700 videos. I recommend going through and watching those before you go out on site. Again, we're just touching the surface in today's video, and some of the things that I put in here for you guys are things we're getting calls on. So I want to just try to help eliminate questions and concerns while you're on site. But I do recommend watching the Trane commercial Symbio videos on YouTube at your leisure. You will need the app as soon as you go to perform a startup with these units. Take a moment right now and go ahead and scan that QR code. That's the home screen on the left right here. This is your home screen that you're going to see with the Android. I took that from my Android phone because they're constantly updating it, and the pictures they had in there were out of date. Which, after you download the app, you should always see if there's a updated firmware version, because they're constantly working on it being new. And that's what it looks like in your app store. And if you see this, log in to Trane Connect. It may ask you for a Trane ID. You do not need a Trane login. You'll just, once you have the Bluetooth on, you're going to view available devices, and the serial number will pop up for you. Symbio service and installation guide. This will come in the unit. I recommend, with all literature, to go ahead and read through at least once. If you're like me, you got to read through things 3 times. Bluetooth pairing to Symbio. So that's what you're going to see on Apple. Here's Android. You're going to turn on Bluetooth, right? So on the board itself, You're going to see a little Bluetooth button. You're going to press the Bluetooth. You're going to start seeing the blinking blue light on the board. You're going to select the controller. You're going to press OK to pair because it's going to pop up. Of course, it doesn't happen that fast. Give it some time, a little bit of patience. It's going to speed you up in the end. But again, give it some patience. We'll let it think. Let it link up to your phone. And then you're going to press the check mark on the circuit board itself. There is a pretty powerful blue LED on the board. Yeah, I put a picture in there. There we go. We're going to see it right there. It's going to say Bluetooth waiting. Here's our Bluetooth button. Now, these are not buttons. You can barely depress it, and it is a fragile circuit board. So just a nice slight touch. It doesn't need to be fully depressed in there to activate it. Heavy hands could break it, I'm sure. And then there's your check mark. So once you engage or turn on Bluetooth, you will see that blinking blue light, and then solid when you're connected. So it's pretty straightforward. Well, this is what it looks like with when your system's pulling up. It's going to give you that Bluetooth pairing request. You will pair and then check mark on the board. If it's a brand new unit or a board swap out, you will see it's going to come up and want you to sync the time. You can sync it from your phone. That's probably the quickest, or you can go through and configure, put it in the time zone and set the time. Or you can ignore it, but I definitely recommend configuring it from your phone is probably the quickest. Then it's going to just populate to the home screen. So right now we're in the home screen. As you can see, we have our selections down here, pretty user friendly. If there's active alarms, they're going to pop up here. First time starting up, you may get some alarms because it's not fully configured yet. From the home screen, we're going to have the summary based on configuration. We're going to have navigation using the icons on the bottom. So this is just, it's going to show you what system we have connected, your space temperature, and the monitor, right? So you can just view what's going on. So if we had a call for heat, it's going to tell you what our supply fan speed is and what our space temperature set point is. Your home button is the quick glance of status of the machine. Your settings is going to go through machine configuration. So settings is machine configuration and set point modification. Your status is your complete view of the machine operation. How is it working? So it's going to go in and view all your parameters, alarms, current alarms, historical alarms, and what's happened in the past. So you can navigate through there and then reset. Tools is service test mode and communication configuration. So remember that communication configuration, etc. So this is where we're going to see our service test mode. So we're going to use tools a lot in settings at first, and then of course when we're going back, we're going to see the alarms. Configuration. Well, all the files are gray to help you locate. So they're gray to help you locate faster. And then as soon as you press your edit button up here, you will begin to see the green feature, and the green is what you're allowed to edit. So the unit's active configuration can be viewed from the mobile service tool or onboard user interface. So you can navigate through the configuration on the Symbio 700 board itself, but of course it's going to be a lot easier to go through your app. Factory configuration can be backed up on a USB memory stick. So once you get this unit set up and you have 6 other units on the roof and they're all identical, you can take a clear or an empty USB FAT32 configured USB drive. Make sure it's empty, no other files on it. Upload its personality and go to each Symbio unit and install the USB drive in the system and download that or that update. That way they will all have the same parameters. So again, if you have multiple units on the roof, I definitely recommend taking advantage of that. And all features and functions of the equipment are driven from the equipment configuration selections. They must be set correctly to match the equipment, which there's one where, well, I'll show you in a second, but it definitely, we're going to go into the model number nomenclature just to touch on that. You can always visit the installation manual with the equipment for the breakdowns, but main thing is I want everybody to understand how to read the model numbers. And I have a few slides to show you that for configuration. This is what you're going to see as you scroll down the page. So you start up here, you got your system type, CV, constant volume, zone, temperature, heat pump 410A. We're going to have to pay attention to this in the coming year, right? When we switch to the R454B. We should not see any R22 on this anymore, but we're going to see the R454B here pretty quick. This is important. And we're going to reference the model number for that. Efficiency, we're going to reference model number for that. Tonnage, again, all this will be now in a perfect world, it's going to come set up from factory, right? But if we're doing a field installed economizer or we're doing any kind of add-on smokes, we're going to have to come in here and tell it that we have. You will have to change your space controller to a conventional T-stat if you're not using zone temp or the zone sensors. You're going to have to know if you got a refrigeration circuit, dual refrigeration circuit. You'll have to tell it if you have a evaporator defrost control enabled or disabled. What else we got? It's got to know your stages. Now it's good practice just to go through here, understand what unit you have and make sure these are set correctly, or you'll get these alarms down here. Frost stat, external auto stop, I'll show you that. Ventilation override. What I do not have on here, which I've been trying to update this week, is my economizer settings. I just figured out that I had to update my circuit board on my trainer because it was not showing me economizer, and it was frustrating me and going through. So I thought I had the latest version board, and again, I never checked it, and sure enough, my board needs to be updated so it shows economizer. And I know that's one of the big questions here. So feel free to give tech services a call when you get to that economizer section. I will, or if you're interested and you need some slides, I'll put one together because now I'm going to take some screenshots and put together a little economizer tutorial walkthrough through the settings so I can send that out to you if you're interested. Just let me know in the messages down there. Equipment can be configured through the mobile service tool. That is during a controller replacement, a full configuration will be required. All configuration items must be completed. So during a controller replacement, it's going to come blank. That's all it's saying. It's going to come blank and you have to put in all the parameters. But what I also seen, factory, we're supposed to have them pre-programmed per unit, but on some cases they are blank. So be prepared to just confirm that we have the right configuration in there. Again, the whole goal of this is to save you guys time and eliminate questions and concerns. If we can eliminate those questions and concerns in the field, it's going to save you guys time, or gals, if you're up there working on it, or if they're calling into the office for assistance. It is recommended for making minor field adjustments. The user should use the edit configuration option. When editing a configuration, if changes are made to the parameter, other parameters may be affected. So I want to state that when editing a configuration, if changes are made to a certain parameter, other parameters may not be may be affected. So it may appear, it may not appear. And you have to be understanding that once you make a parameter selection, it could prompt another selection. Does that make sense? Where you got to go back and you got to make sure that you edit that parameter before moving forward, because it won't let you close out. For example, if the system type is changed to VVZT, variable volume zone temp, but the current tonnage is set to the value that doesn't support the VVZT, like a 5-ton, the tonnage value will also have to be changed to supported value. So it will not allow you to go forth and save your settings because it knows that the 5-ton does not have a VVZT. Model number description. Again, this is in the installation manual, but I want to show you how important it is to know what you have on site. You can order it from factory with certain parameters, but you got to actually know, make sure that you got the right one, and especially if you got to reprogram a board. So you got your digit 1, well, your YSJ, they're all Y, DX cooling gas heat. You got your standard efficiency, J for 410A. I don't know what the 454B yet is. And then our capacity tonnage, make sure that's correct. This is a big one. We've had a couple guys that had it on 208, but they actually had 460. So they have to know what voltage is on the building. Fresh air selection. If it has been ordered with an economizer, we most likely are going to see C right here. C is going to be economizer dry bulb. So that's going to have the economizer already installed, wired, and supposedly set up in the controller for dry bulb. It is possible to get comparative enthalpy, which you'll have a few more controls, but confirm what you have. Here in the Northwest, we typically only need dry bulb. It's a little bit simpler than the enthalpy control, or comparative enthalpy, sorry. The constant volume zone temp, the factory does recommend that they're just set. So if your digit 15 is 0, 1 through 3, go ahead and set that to CVZT. And that could change if it's in an Odyssey system for VVZT is variable volume. We won't see too many of these, but it's possible. Digit 22 is dehumidification option. So you may have a reheater on there. Digit 24, we'll probably see some of these. If you have a smoke detector installed, which I have a slide, if you do a field installed smoke detector and you land it on, well, I'll show you some slides. I won't go into that right now. You'll have to know if you have a clogged filter switch, because you might get an alarm saying that's not hooked up and you have to land the final connection in the harness possibly. Now these units do come from Tyler, Texas, and they take a beating, or Clarksville, actually Clarksville, Tennessee, and through shipping and transport and crane picks onto the job. And they're going to take possible wiring harnesses. If they're not clipped all the way together, they could well, disconnect during transport. So again, in the installation manual during startup, it does recommend you go through all electrical connections and just make sure we got good, solid, tight connections on those mollusks. And that just might save you a couple hours at the end of the day getting this thing going. So you'll see once you're in edit mode or check mark, it'll have a top right configuration on both Apple and Android. Again, economizer is going to be up here. Just so you know, the economizer setting is going to be up here. You'll have to go in here and tell it if you have a frost stat. So you might have to scroll down and say enabled or disabled. And this is, you're just going to scroll down. Once you've done, you're going to press check mark. And then if you have not selected all mandatory options on that page, it will not let you complete it, just so you know. So and they're not in order. So if you select a different voltage and it gives you a drop down, you might have to scroll back up to the top to select the next feature. So it doesn't just automatically drop down under that selection. Here are all of the configuration parameters. Actually, there's more now. This is an outdated slide. I apologize for that. I need to update this too, but there are more selections available. And each system that we work on, Odyssey has different configuration menu than the precedent rooftop units. But as you can see, a lot of different options to choose. Again, first time going through the configuration and app menus, it's a little bit overwhelming, a lot of information. And as you learn to navigate through it, it gets easier. Third time in there, it'll definitely speed us all up. External smoke detectors, we get this a lot. You have to change that J18 pin on the Symbio board. So if you are adding a field installed smoke detector in the ductwork, you're going to have to change this. So the factory set point for the emergency stop is set to no, as noted in the wiring schematic. This can be changed to normally normally open. This can be changed to normally close and see through the Bluetooth app, right? So as you can see, this J18, where we're going to wire the smoke, 24-volt out emergency stop, is normally open. We want that normally closed. So if that smoke detector senses smoke, it's going to open that and shut down the unit. How we do that? From your home screen, you have to be connected into the system. From the home screen, you're going to select Tools. From Tools, you're going to select Service. As you can see from Tools, you got Service Test Mode. You can view data logs, export data logs, backup, restore. There's firmware version down here, update firmware version, and so forth. So you'll be able to scroll down. Intelligent services if we're hooking up to BAS systems. Again, review. If you want to know more about that, I recommend visiting those YouTube channels that I showed previously. Then once we are in, well, let's go back. We're going to go on the service. This service menu is also, a few years later, if we do a new compressor, we can go ahead and restart compressor 1 runtime. But this gives you, if you replace a condenser fan, you can go ahead and reset that time to 0. So you're going to scroll to the bottom of this page and you're going to see customer connection polarity. This is why I'm showing this, because it's not, you wouldn't expect it to be called customer connection polarity. You're going to choose that and you're going to reverse it. Emergency shutdown input status, reverse. So now that's going to switch that contact to normally closed, which now if that smoke detector senses smoke, you'll have an emergency shutdown. Now notice we don't have a check mark up here in this page. I want you to realize once we go back, it does save your parameters that you just set. I just want to let everybody know that, because at first I was trying to save everything I did, but as soon as you go back, you can save at the end and it'll save the parameters you changed. Wanted to add this in here too, because this could create a couple headaches at the end of 400 hours, because it's going to pop up an alarm. Air filter timer will shut down equipment operation. So this you have to change. You will have to change it. Setting indoor filter runtime hour set point set to 0, and it will not happen again. Factory default 400. We have asked the factory to make that default 0, but you have to go into settings for this. As you can see, it'll come up when active alarm and shut down the system. I mean, if you wanted to make sure that the customer is changing their filters, you could leave that on because they're going to get a no heat call or no cool call. You're going to go up there, change the filters, and reset your filter timer. So that's up to you. But you can change that parameter to there's a few choices on there. I can't remember how many, but diagnostics maintenance required will pop up at the end of 400 hours, factory default. So you can change that to 0 and you won't have that shut down equipment. I love this feature. It makes it pretty easy. I'm not going to go too far into it because the gray header at the top shows if any tests are currently active. So if you are in a test, it's going to override everything else and it's going to show you right at the end, top of test. As you navigate through the app too, if you are in test mode, it'll let you know test active. But this overrides all wait times, a single click on the arrow, and test unit functionality. Timers are ignored. So that's nice. You don't have to wait for anything. It's an instant test. So first stage compressor, instant. Test your pressure for compressor 1, test compressor 2, all your stages of heat comes on pretty quick. Test your defrost. Now that's all at the unit. Just be aware that you have about a 25-foot range on this. It is a Bluetooth, just like a Bluetooth headset. So on Odyssey split systems, you will most likely not be able to go to the indoor unit to run your test. You'll have to stay on the roof. But this is nice. You don't have to go down to the thermostat to bump up and wait for a call for heat. You can go ahead or even go downstairs in the thermostat and put it in test mode. You can do it right there at the app and you get instant results. So that's definitely a time saver. There we go. Active test on. So you'll see that green in test mode. Again, it's pretty user friendly. You just got to get in there and start playing with it. Default time to stay in test mode is 60 minutes. Then the mode will return back to inactive state. So if you forget to close it out and leave the job site, it'll go back into normal operation after 60 minutes. That time can be changed in the app or on board. Oh, I apologize. It cannot be changed from the mobile app. I think they've changed that because I did see that we could change that time from the mobile app. Again, these things are constantly updating. So again, make sure you have the recent firmware. Okay, I just added this in here this morning because this came up twice now. So I figured bring it to everybody's attention. So if they are ordered from the factory with an economizer, they are just going ahead and putting these return air sensor connections in. Now we are set up for dry bulb. So the dry bulb, you have to have the discharge air sensor temperature probe set in, which will be installed in the heat exchanger. And you will have to relocate if you're doing horizontal duct work, just so you know. But this is not used in dry bulb economizers. So that's just going to be there. And then you're not going to be supplied with the harness to connect it anywhere. So you'll be looking all over thinking that the economizer package doesn't have it. Again, that is just, well, not used. So what I would do is I'd probably zip tie it out of the way. Again, we could spend more than a couple hours on this. If you have any questions, feel free to ask it in the chat line right now. Please visit those YouTube videos. There's quite a few of them on there that go deeper into the alarms, deeper into IP configuration if you needed to deal with the backnet. If it goes and it has an app tutorial. So they're actually navigating through the app. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the text line. If not, I'm going to close it out. You guys have a great day. If you do have any questions, feel free to email Gensco Tech Support at techsupport@gensco.com. It's again, techsupport@gensco.com, or call 253-620-8282. Have a good day. Wait, is there a way to download this presentation for future references? We are going to put this on Gensco customers, so that will be available to you. Yes. How easy is it to remote connection with Symbio? Okay, so the only things that we've remote connection that is not Wi-Fi, if that's what you mean, you have to be at the unit to connect to Symbio. It's not like the residential link where we can see online diagnostics and view it from our office space. You have to be at the unit because it's a Bluetooth connection, and it's pretty basic. If you have all the firmware, what I've seen, guys had some issues because they didn't have the latest software in the app. Quickest way I found is I deleted the app and reinstalled it. It has the latest version. Then all you do is press that Bluetooth button. You'll see your blinking light. It should happen pretty quick. The app, once you have it open, it should find available devices after you press it. You'll see the waiting circle for a little bit, and then it will display your model number that's broadcasting. So again, you can only hook up to one unit at a time. So if you do have multiple units on the roof for startup, you can only do one at a time. And then you're going to go ahead, press that serial number, and then you're going to be in it. So it's relatively easy if you have the latest software versions updated on your phone. That's the only thing that has been an issue. We did have one that had suffered some water damage that wouldn't connect to Bluetooth. So if you are having troubles on Bluetooth connection, possibly the board needs to be updated. So we can check that. It's software version 5.0 right now for the latest Symbio, for the Symbio 700 boards. Does that answer your question?